So, no.
What's up?
I know you were saying this boxing match between Logan Paul and Nate Robinson. I thought, was it Jake Paul or Logan Paul? I get them confused. Which one was it?
See, I get it confused. It's got to be Logan, right? Yeah, no, it's Jake Paul.
Jake.
Okay,
it's Jake Paul. Okay, there we go. Jake Paul.
Okay.
Okay, so now I don't know much about them, but I know they're both YouTube celebrities. I know they've gotten caught up in some controversy. I know one of them filmed like a dead body in Japan that committed suicide, and then the one that he fought, Jake Paul. I know he got in trouble when the whole, I guess you want to say, quote unquote, riots or protests were going on. I know he was on video inside of one of the malls, and the FBI was looking into him for looting.
Wow.
I don't think anything ever came of that. Yeah, but he had some controversy. But that's not really the story.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a YouTube star versus Nate Robinson, former basketball player, played college football at Washington.
Mm-hmm.
A good athlete, smaller guy, but a really good athlete. He goes in the ring, he gets knocked out. I mean, did you watch the fight?
Yeah. I watched both, but yeah, I watched the fight.
Nolan.
I don't know, man.
How far did he set us back? Did he set us back 20 or 30 years? I'm just trying to figure out. Because I feel like the Obama election, I feel like he set us back a little farther than that.
Look, man, I do like Nate Robinson, so it's kind of hard for me.
He was drooling.
It was kind of hard for me, man. And I'm not trying to make light of it. However, man, it was bad. Like, he just was out of there. I mean,
Nolan, he slid across the ring. He legit slid on the ring, man.
I got to be honest. In all seriousness, and I think we've talked about this, I do think the ref should have called it off at some point. Especially, I think it was the second time when he did get knocked out. He looked already kind of dazed. And I just want to say, that was the longest 10-second count I've ever heard in my life.
Well, how the ref going to call it off when you knocked out? Like, hey, boxing.
I know, but I feel like it was entertainment, and they wanted to see a knockout, and they gave people what they want. He got a knockout.
What you mean? The fight was so close. I mean, it was so quick. How you gonna call it off?
Bro, he wasn't even moving, bro. I was like, all right. I mean, he got knocked out, but come on, man, that's crazy.
Okay, but hear me out. You can't call it off because he got knocked down the first time. He got a hit. Took a shot behind the head. Kind of dangerous shot, but he got up. And then, like within 10 seconds later, he was knocked out that second time, so there was nothing to call off. That's what I'm saying.
So wait, was it 2 times or 3 times? Because I thought he got knocked down twice, and then the third time he got.
No. I think it was twice. It was like boom.
Okay.
He got hit that one time.
So I thought it was 3 times. I thought he got hit the first time, right? And then because he lasted to the second round. Then the second round he got hit, and then I thought the third time he got up, he got knocked out. Okay, we gonna have to review that, but I thought it was 3. But somebody will listen to this and let us know. But I thought it was 3. But either way, yeah, I mean, he did get knocked out. I mean, he didn't move for a while. That was kind of, that was a little bit troubling. But I think it was just a little bit in over his head. I liked the idea of it. However, it looked like he was just practicing a lot of offense and then training classes with the boxing. Like I said, the best thing that came from this whole night, we know it's a Snoop Dogg. That's the best thing that came from this.
Oh, no.
We figured out Snoop Dogg is goated. He is the GOAT announcer. We need him. I'm gonna be honest with you. So the views on the Super Bowl are big. How much bigger do you think they are with Snoop Dogg?
Well, first of all, Snoop Dogg is going to get kicked out this Super Bowl. I mean, let's if we're going to do that, let's be honest. He going to smoke weed.
Yeah.
He going to call somebody a dog.
Yeah.
And then he going to call Patrick Mahomes the N-word.
Yeah.
And like if we thought Janet Jackson was bad at the Super Bowl, and if we thought that was a big mess, he's gonna be like 20 times
How about
worse.
this? Let me level with you. How about we do this? How about we kick the Weeknd off of the performance, because I'm not trying to listen to the Weeknd anyway, and we kick him off at halftime, and we just have Snoop Dogg come out and he commentated and analyzed what happened in the first half.
No.
Come on. You're not taking that over the Weeknd performance? You rather watch the Weeknd perform?
No, we just got Biden elected. Let's not push it.
Come on, man. All right, well, I want to see that. And I mean, well, speaking of Snoop Dogg, how do you think he did, of course, with the Mike Tyson and the Roy fight? Or what do you think about the fight in general? Because, I mean, it was a lot of hugging, but.
I mean, it was a lot of hugging, but I'm not a boxing aficionado, so I'm not going to sit there and act like I know the ins and outs.
Right.
But I know enough.
We'll ask Max Keller.
Holding back. hey, we asked Kellerman, but Kellerman don't have to tell me one thing. Mike Tyson was holding back. Did you he was definitely holding back on some of those punches.
I didn't think he was holding back. I thought Roy was doing a good job.
Yes, he was.
I thought Roy was doing a good job jabbing him. Oh, I'll be honest. I thought Mike Tyson looked better than what I thought he was going to look like. And then I thought Roy was kind of holding his own for the most part, but he was trying to dodge it and just really get out of there alive at a certain point, it felt like. But I thought it was – here's what I would say. For an exhibition fight, I mean, this is as good as it's going to get. And I was pretty excited about it, and I'm looking forward to if they do some of these going forward. With Mike Tyson, if he wants to get with Holyfield or someone else, I'm looking forward to these. I'm really looking forward to these. Hopefully these are old guys, and they did look really gassed and really tired. I will say that, but
well, I mean, there's another one coming up, Logan Paul, so Jake Paul.
No. I'm interested in boxers.
But he's going to be fighting Floyd Mayweather.
No, I'm interested in two boxers boxing, not celebrity boxers.
Well, I'm interested in celebrity boxing. Like celebrity death match. That kind of thing.
So you're interested in seeing YouTube stars just go and box just anybody. You want to see a repeat of the Nate Robinson thing. That's what you're essentially telling me if you're going to go fight Floyd Mayweather.
You think Floyd going to knock him out?
How many losses did Floyd have?
But Floyd not known for. I know he's a boxer. He's not known for knocking people out.
How many losses does he have? I forgot.
Okay, let's get to basketball. Obviously, obviously, we just not going. We're not going to agree.
All right, everyone. Welcome to Interesting Enough. Of course, he's Trey Samuel. I'm Nolan Todd. Thank you so much again for joining us. We got a big packed show for you guys. So many things to get into. Of course, heavy NBA topics. We've had some trades go on. We got some things to talk to you about in the NFL. But, Trey, the first thing I do want to talk about is your boy, your man's, LeBron James. Okay? Obviously, we've heard during the week he's made a lot of different comments. For those who haven't, I'll fill you in. LeBron James just won the championship for the Los Angeles Lakers. That makes how many championships, Trey?
He's the GOAT.
How many championships?
He's the GOAT.
Okay. Well, I'll fill everybody in. That makes 4 championships for LeBron James, right? LeBron James recently was on the Road Tripping podcast with Richard Jefferson. He had a bunch of things to say that we won't get to cover, but most notably, he mentioned that he thought winning the championship in the bubble not only made that one of the toughest championships he's ever had to go through, but he believes that he's actually gone through the 2 toughest NBA championships to win of all time. Now, he didn't state what that second championship that he thought was the toughest was. We're going to assume that it was the 2016 NBA Finals when he beat the 73-win all-time great Golden State Warriors team when coming back down from a 3-1 lead. Trey, is he right, or is he just kind of feeling that championship juice and that champagne right now?
Well, I guess it's just going to depend on how you look at it, because from a basketball perspective, I think beating that 73-win Warriors team was probably the most difficult NBA championship he's going to win. And even if he wins other ones in his career, that one would have been the most difficult. I think when you look at the one,
so most difficult for him or most difficult just all time?
No, I'm talking about just for him.
Okay,
I'm not going through it all the time. Yeah, but just for him. I think when you're looking at the one in the bubble, I don't think you have to look at that one just as basketball. I mean, obviously, Paul George had comments about his mental health kind of being put to the test in a bubble. Obviously, it was a different scenario. You couldn't see your family and friends for 3 to 4 months. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was really necessarily his most difficult basketball-wise, but I think it was just bigger than basketball at that point. So I think if you had to look at it like that, you can make an argument that it was his most difficult. But I think also, if he's going to say this was his most difficult one, if this was number 2 or whatever it was, he's overlooking that first one he won against the Spurs. I mean, because I hate Skip Bayless, but, he does have a point. He's one Ray Allen shot away from losing that series. And I know as a Miami Heat fan, you know that very well.
I mean,
so I don't know if I really agree with that comment. I don't know.
You torn. I know you don't want to disagree with your boy because that's your man's, but I disagree because he's not my man's. So, here's what I'll say. No way is that the 2 most difficult championships of all time. Now, I can sit here and bore everyone with the list of championships and how much more difficult it is, but I'll just stick it and keep it with LeBron James. I just got to be honest here. I'll give you the bubble situation. I'll give you that one, and that is very tough. I mean, yeah, they had to deal with adversity. Sorry, Bill Russell won championships when he was dealing with racism. So I'm sorry if that's a little bit more difficult. Now, I don't bring up.
Hold on.
I know you're going to bring up the people he played against, but you can't help who you're playing against.
No. I'm not even bringing it up. But I'm just saying, we're going to tackle the issue of racism, and not to get into a whole, social commentary here. Okay. But wasn't that issue kind of present this year?
Let me clarify. Okay.
And I know it's different levels. Different levels. I know.
So I'll clarify. Yes, we were dealing with racism, whether it was covert or not, on both ends. What I will say is, not trying to compare the situations. However, Bill Russell was sitting next to civil rights leaders and in the trenches doing these things and dealing with segregation and a lot of these things that don't exist today. And we're dealing with it on a different level. Obviously, look, people are getting killed. And it's unfortunate and it's not good. And a lot of these things still exist. So, all credit to LeBron James and a lot of these players that are doing what they did and doing what they were going to continue to do. It's just hard for me to be like, that's the hardest, just definitively. So I'll even leave that one alone. Let me make something very clear for everyone listening here and Trey. There is no way that 2016 championship team. Now, what I will say about that team is I give them credit for beating a great team, one of the greatest teams ever, at least historically, regular season-wise. But I got to be honest here. Did I forget that they were actually down 3-1? Because LeBron James was playing and Kyrie Irving were playing in these games when they were down 3-1. So I'm sorry. It was your fault that you got down 3-1 where you had to then come back. I'm sorry. You didn't play a flawless series. That's on you. Second, here's what I will say. As many games as the Golden State Warriors team won, and they were a great team. And, of course, for those who don't know, we're talking about the Golden State Warriors team pre-Kevin Durant joining them. So they were a great team. I just think the talent disparity between those teams were very close, and if not, even in Cleveland's advantage. So I don't really feel like it's that tough, especially when you're playing with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. The narrative with LeBron James, how a lot of people like to put, and this is probably the conversation for a different day, how he's played with a bunch of different guys, and he hasn't had a lot of these great players and this and that. Man, I can go through a list of great players LeBron James has played with that gets understand and really good role players. Go ahead.
But how are you taking the comments? Are you taking in advantage that he's saying this is your two of the most difficult championships all time?
Oh, okay. So I'm taking it and
I just hit.
And of course I'm going. We don't know, right? We don't know his perspective. I'm guessing here, right? I'm taking it as he's saying that these are the two most difficult championships of all time, and he played in the two most difficult championships to win of all time, and he played in both. But here, I'll be even taking it a step further. I really just think he's making this comment, just taking his claim without saying it, that he's the GOAT. Let's be honest here.
But he is the GOAT.
Whether he is the GOAT or not, I think he's saying it without saying it. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of what he's getting at there. So I think that's the bigger thing.
Well, let me say it for him. He is the GOAT. So,
well, we can have this discussion. I mean, this is very clear. If anybody wants to find out if LeBron James or Michael Jordan is the GOAT of basketball, I would encourage you to just use Google. Just use Google. Shout out to Google. Use Google. Google will answer your questions. Any questions
you have. Take my word.
You could take Trey's word. You don't even I'm telling you, you don't have to take my word. Use Google. That's what I'm going to tell you. Use Google, okay? But moving on from the LeBron James conversation, I do want to talk about James Harden. Now, James Harden plays for the Houston Rockets, has somehow maybe requested a trade. Maybe we don't know about it. He looks like he wants to leave. Now, we'll get to Westbrook and John Wall obviously being traded there. But what I will say is trade. James Harden wants to be traded. There's a few different suitors. What suitor do you think is the best fit for him? Now, we don't know what team has a lot of assets to get him, but what do you think is the best fit for James Harden if he does leave Houston?
Well, hold on. First of all, let's get to the first topic because you jumped the gun. Mm-hmm. Why is James Harden handing out $100,000 in cash in a Louis bag?
I knew he was going to get to this eventually.
God. I mean, come on.
He got
$100,000? What? And honey buns?
Like Lil Baby said, he's giving me a Prada bag because he's proud of me. Those two words do not go together and do not rhyme, but it's Lil Baby. And he's having a great year, so we're going to give it to him. He is giving me a Prada bag because he's proud of me. And James Harden is proud of Lil Baby. And we should respect that. We should respect that, Trey. Yeah, $100,000, that's his friend. That is his friend, Trey. 100,000.
You my friend, but you ain't never gave me 100,000.
You're right. I probably might even give you not one honey bun. So obviously our relationship is a lot different than theirs. So, but what do you think? Where do you think James Harden is going, man? Because he's good. Little baby's from Atlanta, but I'll tell you what, he's not going to Atlanta.
No, he's not going to Atlanta. I think James Harden is going wherever he can. That's out of Houston. And what I mean by that is, I don't think Tillman Fertitta, who's the owner of the Houston Rockets, and I don't even know who their general manager is at this point. But I just don't think they're going to trade him. And I don't think they're going to trade him to the Nets because the Nets don't really have anything to offer other than Karis LeVert, maybe a pick.
Kyrie Irving.
That's about it. But there's two things wrong with that. First, as an organization, Kyrie Irving just came in, and then you trade him away. That's not a good look, especially if you want to get people in the future to come there. Second of all, it's kind of a wash. I mean, I know James Harden is better, but
really,
it's not a substantial move. But that's a whole other argument. I think if he can get out anywhere, I think it might be somewhere like Milwaukee. And the reason I say that is I feel like Milwaukee would basically give him the whole house, like anybody, any pick, anything they had left to get James Harden, just so they can keep Giannis happy. But I think it'll probably, in the end of the day, be some random team that we didn't even really imagine being able to get him, like Orlando Magic, for example. Just somebody out of the
Okay. So I do think James Harden is going to only want to go. So if he is working in conjunction with the organization, which it seems he is, he's going to want to go to one of the contenders. And then we see him announce, obviously he wants to go to every single contender that's in the Eastern Conference. How ironic. So he's going to want to go to Brooklyn. He's going to want to go to the Heat, right? Milwaukee. I mean, he doesn't name the Celtics because they have all the guards and forwards imaginable, but I'm sure he'd like to go there too. So what I will say is, I think the best destination, so if we're just talking about on paper, I mean, I think the best destination is Philadelphia on paper. So I'm going to assume here, if you're moving him, I'm going to assume Ben Simmons is in the deal, right? I'll just assume that. Yeah. So we'll remove Ben Simmons from the table. And even if you remove Ben Simmons, I mean, you'd have Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid. Now, we don't know what the pieces will be, right? Moving parts, but you would assume they'd at least probably keep Tobias Harris, right? If they can.
Yeah, I don't see Houston even want to take that.
But what I'll say is, if you're moving the deal, you're not getting Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris, right? Like one of them is staying. I mean, at this point, so we'll bet on. Hey, Houston's going to be like, hey, let's build around Ben Simmons, right? So I think they have the best fit. I think he can play well with Joel Embiid, even though the style it is, and I think he can actually, because they'll be coached by Doc Rivers, and Doc Rivers is really good with stars, as we know. I think that's the best chance for them to succeed. And not just because of the spacing on the floor with James Harden, right, because he's a better shooter. I just think that, I wouldn't say intellectually, but I just think what he can do in the offensive end, I mean, it's just so special at times. And I think he can really help Joel Embiid. And I think he can really take the pressure off where in the fourth quarter, you can really have a guy to get you a bucket, and it doesn't have to be Embiid because we know he doesn't like to sit down on the block. So I think destination-wise, on paper, that'd be the best fit. The only reason I won't say the Milwaukee situation is because I think that they would have to give up, like who they would have to give up to get him would be tough, and I don't think that would make them better just having him in the Greek Freak. Oh, they'd make it better.
But let me ask you this.
Not that much better. But go ahead.
Okay, but let me ask you this now. They did mention that he put Miami on his list for teams that he wouldn't mind going to. I know that's your favorite team. How do you feel about that? Because I think that would be kind of a funny fit, if that's the word or phrase I could use. Because I know Jimmy Butler, he's a star, but he's almost kind of like a secondary star. He doesn't have to have the ball in his hands a lot. He doesn't really care if he's averaging 30. But I'm thinking, who would you give up? I guess that's why I would say a funny fit. Like, are you going to give up Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, and then Derrick Jones? Like, are you just going to give up all your young core for James Harden, who's 32 years old? He's not getting any younger. I mean, it would just be kind of a funny fit in that regard.
Yeah. Well, I can answer this simply. Yeah. Thanks, but no thanks. So, yeah, okay. we're good. I'm cool with that. I like James Harden as a player, but we're good with what we have building. Now, I'm not stupid. James Harden will improve your team. You are a championship contending team when you get James Harden. And if that means giving up Tyler Hero, and I've seen some really wild things on the internet, Trey, people are like, well, we could get James Harden, but we'd have to give up Tyler Hero. I don't think we should do it. Now, you know how much I love Tyler Hero and how well he played in the bubble and how well he's grown and improved. He's in songs with Jack Harlow and videos. Life is
But you give
good.
him up.
But Trey, I know James Harden's 31 years old, but let's not act like if we got a chance to get James Harden that I'm not going to, and Tyler Hero's got to be the piece that's got to go. Let's not act like I'm losing sleep. Like
No, you give him up 10 times out of 10 times.
And as much as I love him, I'm just keeping it honest. So the only is untouchable is Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. That's it. That's the only people that are untouchable, right? Because that doesn't make your team better if you have to give one of them up to get James Harden. So what I will say is, go ahead.
But I was going to say this. Okay, we talking about these trades, and we have, let's say this. We got the Westbrook and John Wall trade. Let's go ahead and talk about that real quick.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean.
And let's say, if we're thinking about James Harden trade, obviously we're thinking, okay, Houston's going to want to take a lot back. They're going to want to try to win that trade, get as much back as they possibly can. But I'm looking at it from Westbrook's perspective. Houston just got rid of Westbrook, and they really didn't get much back because I think they lost that trade. So why do they need to take the whole kitchen back for James Harden if they didn't try to do that with Westbrook? I guess that's
you're saying if you're Houston.
Yeah.
So
because you really didn't get much back with John Wall. I mean,
so we haven't touched this much, but what I will say is, as far as what Houston is concerned, is concerned. Oh, if I'm Houston, I'm not rushing to make any deal. Just because you wanted to huff and puff and say you got 2 years left in the deal, you want to go. That's great, but I'm not rushing.
So you want to kill team chemistry?
You rather kill team chemistry for what? Where's the team going? Even if the chemistry is great. I know it sounds really bad to say, but I'll put it for people listening. Where is the Houston Rockets going? You can ask yourself this question. Where is the Houston Rockets going if the chemistry is great? Let's say John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins is back again and James Harden. Where's the team going? They're out in the second round at very best, right? So that is the ceiling. This is an honest podcast and interesting enough. This is what we do here. This is honest. This is the ceiling of their team. If everything goes right, guys stay healthy, chemistry is good, guys put up career numbers, they are at best a 5 seed that is going to be out in the second round. So if that's the case, and we know about being a middle feeder in the league where you're not really improving at all, I know chemistry might be tough for a little minute, but if you can give your coach and your GM that license and you're like, hey, you guys are on a 2, 3, 4 year deal. I'm not stressing that if this year doesn't end that well because of this situation and you got a tough hand to deal with, we're not stressing it. So
but see, it's a double standard because you're being real picky now with James Harden, but you weren't really that picky when you got rid of Westbrook. If all you got back with John Wall, you really weren't that picky. Like you lost that trade.
So who got a pick?
Oh my God, they got gonna be a late first round pick. Oh my goodness.
But here's the thing.
They really finna get somebody. They finna get Michael Jordan in the draft. I forgot.
Here's the thing, though. I will say, there's reports that James Harden requested John Wall or preferred John Wall. Now, I don't know. We don't know if that's true, right? We're not journalists. We don't know if that's true, but there's reports. So I don't think we look at their games. That's a wash, right? But we don't know what James Harden thinks, and we don't know what that system, how they're going to play. I think DeMarcus Cousins might be a bigger difference to them than even the John Wall thing, to be honest, if he's actually healthy.
DeMarcus Cousins can't walk.
Okay, well, I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave that.
Oh, I'm not, because I'm about to tell you.
I'm gonna leave that alone.
Every time he touched the court, he gets hurt.
Unfortunately,
John Wall played in 2 years.
Right.
I mean, so like what? I'm just saying. So what has Houston done? I guess that's what I'm getting at. What have they done this offseason?
They haven't done much.
And now
we'll see what they get back for the Harden thing because he will be traded. But what I will say is they haven't done much as terms of just that one deal. But we'll see. I think it's interesting to see going forward. But I mean, you touched on the Westbrook Wall trade, and I know you think. I'm assuming you think the Wizards won the trade. How big of an impact do you think Westbrook's going to be with the Wizards? How good do you think they're going to be?
I mean, okay. I'm not saying the Wizards are going to be, a top seed in the East.
What's their ceiling? How about that?
From it.
What's the ceiling?
They could be like a 5th seed in the East. Okay. I mean, they're like in Indiana because Indiana was, I think, the 5th seed this year. They're like around there.
Okay, I got you. Okay, I can agree with that.
And, I mean, give or take, Boston, let's say Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown has to miss significant time, and Kemba Walker, he's dealing with his injury issues. they could be around Boston if they're not at full strength.
So I got an interesting Celtics take. I don't know if we should probably maybe save it for our NBA preview pod, but I think I haven't.
Go ahead and say it. I just want to hear it.
So this is my Celtics take. I think the Celtics are done. I don't think they'll.
Yeah, I do. I agree.
Okay, so I thought it was going to be more controversial. I think they're bottom out.
No.
I think they're bottom out. And this is what I say. I actually have a few reasons, and I'll touch it real quick. The second reason is the Kemba Walker situation, right? But in the injuries in the knee. The first actual reason to me is a lot of times, and when we see young teams and they have young cores, we always assume, hey, it's going to work out. They're going to get back, and they're going to do this and that. I think guys can be young, but I think sometimes your window, you don't think your window is your window until after your window. Does that make sense? So like we see them and they're like in their third, fourth year. And you're like, well, they've already been to the conference. But if you think about it, yeah, they've been to the conference finals a few times already. They're kind of like vets aged wise in terms of how many times they've been to the playoffs and how many times they've been through big games. And it's like, how many times can you go through that and just be like, well, they're young, they'll be back. Nah, man, it doesn't work like that. You don't always, teams are getting better. It's not like teams just stay complacent. The second reason is the Kemba Walker situation. Now, I thought that they did have to get rid of Kyrie Irving. I like that they got Kemba Walker. I love Kemba Walker as a player. I like him even better as a person. I just don't think a guard at that size, and then with the knee injuries, I just don't see it improving any better. At best, he can get healthy enough to play in some playoff series, but unfortunately, I think they're going to have to move on from this. And honestly, you could see it. You could even see it if it doesn't work out this year with the injuries. You could see it after this year. I mean, watch out for that. So that's my Celtics take. Let me know what you think about that. It's the first time I'm actually saying it loud, but Trey, go ahead.
I mean, I agree with that Celtics take. I'm not going to be long-winded on it, but I just think their window is closing. But I do want to bring up one point. You brought up how they had to move on from Kyrie, and I know you and me were talking about earlier, before we started the podcast, about Kyrie's recent comments and how he's not talking to the media. So I just want to kind of get your thoughts on that. Do you think he's being a distraction to his team, or do you think he has making a valid point? Do you think he's smart? Because I think he's stupid. I mean, quite frankly, I think he's a dumbass.
Look, man.
But, I mean, how do you feel about it?
Kyrie's just an interesting character. We've talked about it off air, of course, multiple times, not just what he said recently. I just feel like it's like Kyrie's one of those guys, sometimes I feel like he can't get out of his own way and out of his own head. Like, it's kind of like you come out and you say that you don't want to be a distraction, and you become a distraction by not doing the thing that wasn't going to be the distraction. Like, it's just so confusing for me. So I don't know that he thinks a lot of things through when he does it, or he just might not care. I don't know what the reason is. I don't think he's stupid. I just think sometimes he doesn't care. But at the end of the day, with Kyrie Irving, like it's always been, if he comes out and hoops and he's on House of Highlights and everything is good and he's playing well, it's not going to matter. And we know he can still hit big shots in the fourth quarter.
Yes or no? Does he think the earth is flat? Yes or no?
I'm moving on.
No, yes, I'm moving on. Okay. Let me answer for you. Yes, he does.
I think he's walked back those comments in recent years, but we'll have to check back on that. I think he's walked back those comments, but I'm going to leave it at that. Look, the final thing I want to get to NBA-wise, though, is the Paul George comments. Okay, so Paul George obviously went on the All the Smoke podcast. He had a bunch to talk about in terms of the Clipper season. Obviously, no one's really heard from him as far as publicly since the debacle were hitting the side of the backboard that broke the bubble. So Paul George has come out, all right, and, he's had a bunch of comments. Most notably, he said that the Clippers and Doc Rivers and the coaching staff didn't make enough adjustments when they were down in the series. When they were up in the series versus the Nuggets and when the Nuggets were coming back. Trey, I know we talked about the interview, not just multiple parts. What's your comments on it? These comments, do they even matter at this point?
Okay, before I start, I'm going to give you two interesting facts. First of all, the Clippers played the Lakers on Friday in a preseason game, and Paul George hit the side of the backboard again.
Did he? I didn't actually see that.
Yes. No, he actually did it a second time. It's quite amazing.
I didn't even see that. Wow, that's crazy. Okay. Wow. Okay.
And the second interesting fact, I don't know who's worse, Paul George or Kyrie Irving. They both should just shut up for a while. Listen, Paul George goes on a podcast and he says Doc Rivers didn't make enough adjustments.
To be fair, he didn't say Doc Rivers.
You got to make when you have to. Okay, fine. The team. Who's going to be the one making those adjustments or calling those adjustments out for the team? Doc Rivers.
Gotcha.
If you're up 3-1, what adjustments do you need to make? In each game, you led by double digits. And then I think the game 7, you can come out here and score like 5 points.
I don't think they also didn't score in the fourth quarter, I believe. Him and Kawhi Leonard, I don't think they scored in the fourth quarter. It was something like that.
Yeah, maybe his adjustment should have been not hitting the side of the bat.
Look, here.
Or him saying, "Oh, Doc Rivers is playing me like Ray Allen."
I heard that too. Yeah, so he was saying that he was using him like Ray Allen or JJ Redick, kind of as a shooter instead of.
Well, we should have been using you like Rondo if you hitting the side of the backboard.
Look, here's what I will say though. I do think Paul George, and we'll get to it in our preview podcast. I do think Paul George is going to have a big year, but obviously he's going to be judged like a lot of guys in the league. We just want to see what you do when you get back to the playoffs, right? So that's going to be the biggest thing going forward. So I'm just.
Okay, so let me ask you this before you get off this topic real quick. Yeah. He's going to have a big year. You think he's top 5 in MVPs?
No, he's not top 5 in MVP. You're playing with a guy who's probably going to be an MVP candidate anyway, so you're not the best player on your team. That's tough to do. I mean, most guys are – I mean, Anthony Davis was in the top 5 MVP candidate, and he probably should have been, right? With the Lakers, he's just on a team – he's just on a team with a guy that was – it's just hard to do. So, too, but I'm not going to act like Paul George is still the top 15 player in the league, right? Like, I mean, he's still that guy. We just got to see you do it in the playoffs. And honestly, how many times have we been saying we got to see Paul George do this in the playoffs? It's not just been just because he had the side of the backboard last year. You know what I mean? We've been waiting for this since Indiana. So I'm waiting to see what he's going to do. You know, we got a long way to go for the playoffs, so we got to wait for that. So I'm interested to see with all this stuff. I can't wait for the NBA preview next week. So we'll actually take a quick break here, and then we'll get into some NFL topics as well. What's up, Interesting Enough family? Nolan here, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for tuning into us every single week as we give you the best content possible. However, I do have to ask you for one more thing. Come be a part of our family, and not just the Interesting Enough family, the Anchor family, and record a podcast yourself. It's so easy to do. Let me explain. First off, it's completely free. They have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your computer or phone. As a matter of fact, I'm doing it right now. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard from Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. That's right. Real money. Real money. It's everything you need to make a podcast, and it's all in one place. All you got to do is just download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right. We are back. Thank you, everyone, of course, for joining us. And interesting enough, of course, it's Trey and Nolan still here with you. So we wanted to get into some NFL topics that we haven't talked about in a while. Now, Trey, a lot of stuff has been going on in the NFL that we haven't got into as far as games. You know, my Dolphins have been playing well. We got the Chiefs coming up, big game. Tua's been playing well. He's progressed a lot since we last spoke. But in general, there's been a lot of teams that we expected to be good that hasn't been. And there's been some surprise teams. So, Trey, I wanted to throw it to you. I'll throw it to you first here. What team to you in the NFL has been the biggest surprise, and do you think that's going to continue?
I was just stick with the Cleveland Browns. I know I've said it before. I'm not a big Baker Mayfield fan, but you know he's been managing the game well enough. I don't know if he's been exceptional. I'm not going to say that, but he's been doing enough. I thought when he lost Odell Beckham, I thought okay, this season is going to be a wrap. But it turns out they're actually doing a little better. Baker doesn't feel like he has to target Odell as much, so he can spread out the offense as far as passing goes. The coaching, Kevin Stefanski, he's been doing a pretty good job of it. I was kind of concerned about him being first time coach, seeing what he was going to do, but he's actually been managing the games really well. Does it continue? I mean, what do we mean by continue? I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But are they going to make the Super Bowl? No.
So they're playoffs first.
Can they win a game?
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, that's something for the Cleveland Browns when you haven't made the playoffs in 20 years. You know what I mean?
You. Look, man, I'm gonna be honest here. The Browns have been a really nice story this year, and they've been running the ball a lot with Chubb and those guys. So take the pressure off of Baker Mayfield. I will say they have played some bad football teams. A lot of they've had the beneficiary of playing some bad teams, the Texans and the Jaguars and things like that. So it helps their record. But you still got to win the games. You got to win. So but Trey, you already know where I'm going with my biggest surprise. And it's not a surprise to me.
Oh, boy.
Because I already stated this. If you've been listening to us and if you've been keeping up with us, I said, and we're going to find the clip. I said in the beginning, maybe very early on in our podcast, I told Trey that the Washington football team was going to be the surprise of the NFL. And it looked bleak. Okay, it didn't look great for a while. They play in the worst division in NFL history. They're only 5-7. But guess what? They are going to win their division. I told you guys up front. Now, the only thing I didn't say was I said Dwayne Haskins was going to be the quarterback and playing well. That's changed. Alex Smith has looked actually pretty good for a guy coming off of a big leg injury. But that defense, I told you they were going to be good. I'm going to be honest, I didn't know they were going to be this good. Montez Sweat, Chase Young, those guys, a bunch of – if people don't realize these names I'm naming, Montez Sweat, Chase Young, Jonathan Allen, these guys are first-round picks or very high picks, all right, that they've invested on this defensive line. They can get after the quarterback. You saw it in that Dallas game when everybody was eating Thanksgiving turkey, and now it's continued to eat against even a very good Pittsburgh Steelers team. They can get after the quarterback. They can run the ball with Gibson, okay, and then Alex Smith can make some timely throws. This team, I'll take it a step further, Trey. If this team makes the playoffs, which I believe they will, they're going to win a playoff game. If they make the playoffs, they're going to win a playoff game. They're that good. You can win with running the ball in a pass rush in the NFL in a playoff game. Let them play a sneaky team, man. They play like a Seattle Seahawks or somebody, or Rams that's struggling. They catch them on the wrong day. I'm telling you, man, that team could win. I'm telling you. No one has to believe me. So you don't have to believe me. No one believed me. I was by myself when I said it before. So we going to wait and see. But Trey, as great as it's been for a lot of teams, it's been awful for some other teams. Who's the biggest disappointment, man?
Well, the biggest disappointment is New York Jets. They suck.
But isn't the biggest disappointment? We already knew they were going to be bad.
No. We ain't know they was going to be this bad. I mean, Sam Darnold, I know he's been injured, but I mean, it looks almost like he's regressed. I mean, they need to get Gates out of there. Like, I just don't know what they could do. And what they're really going to do is they're going to do kind of what the Bengals are in the process of doing. They're going to get a star quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, presumably, and they're going to kill his career. They don't have an offensive line. They don't have any wide receiver options. I mean, like, I really don't know what this team could do to get better. Like, I'm out of words for them. I'm perplexed.
Adam Gase can go as the coach. He was the coach of the Dolphins, and he's a Mr. My Way or the Highway when he's won 0 playoff games to even have that credibility. So he can go. I think Sam Darnold's actually a pretty good quarterback. I think he's just in, like you said, in a tough situation. However, I'm going to go big disappointment-wise. Now, there's a lot of options I can go here just for the people. I think about the Ravens sometimes, but the Ravens do have a chance of making the playoffs. They just haven't played well. They haven't hit stride. So it just feels like a disappointment because you feel like they'd be playing better. I lean sometimes towards the Texans just because of the offseason trade with the DeAndre Hopkins and how they have Deshaun Watson out there getting killed on a week-to-week basis. But my biggest disappointment is going to be the Chicago Bears. Here's why.
Okay.
Trey, 2 years ago, this team was in the playoff. They missed a game-winning field goal, and they could have been in the second round of the playoffs. With that great defense, Khalil Mack, Eddie Jackson, Fuller, and all these guys. And now you go here, and because of the awful quarterback play, may I say quite possibly the worst quarterback play in the NFL. And that includes the New York Jets, Trey. Quite possibly the worst quarterback play in the NFL. They cannot win football games. And they historically, as the saying goes, they have two quarterbacks. And of course, if you know the saying, if you find yourselves having two quarterbacks, you really have zero. So that's the situation they have. They need to go get a quarterback. And man, doesn't it look awful, Trey? I mean, I know we can look back on drafts and be like, man, you could have got this guy and that guy. But, man, they got Mitchell Trubisky and they could have had Deshaun Watson, man. They could have had Patrick Mahomes.
You know, and it looks awful. But I'm going to say this one thing about Chicago. They look like they're, in a weird way, one piece away. Like, they just need a quarterback. I'm talking about the Jets. They need a whole – like, they just need to retool
Here's
the whole
what
team.
I said, and you're kind of to the Bears thing real quick. They need a quarterback. But do you remember – I don't know if you remember. There's a team that we actually said about this about a few years ago, and they were a piece away, and the piece was the quarterback, and then everything hit the fan. I'll remind you. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Exactly. Stuff does not happen. The Jacksonville Jaguars were the Boston Celtics in a way where they're like, oh, they're so young. They're going to be here, this and that. And then now, look at that.
But what I will say about the Jaguars is this: they waited too long. Like they took it to the brink. Like they
Yeah.
played. They should have got rid of Blake Bortles 2 years earlier. They just
But
waited
I
too
mean,
long.
how long is your
I
defense for the
think.
Bears? How long is your defense going to be this good for this long? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I think okay. I think they got another year, maybe two. Like they have to get a quarterback this year.
Okay.
They have to, and that quarterback has to be a stud. So I know it's still a lot. I mean, that's a difficult proposition, but it's
But then the tough
possible.
part about it is even if you get a quarterback right away, he's a rookie. So you're expecting a rookie to come in.
Yeah, that's why I said they like unless he goes out there and has like a Burrow like the season he
Right.
was having,
A Herbert.
it probably Herbert. That's another one. Thank you, but I mean it's possible, but
I don't know. I mean, I think they're going to salt
yeah,
it away. And like you said, even if they draft a quarterback, it's like, you got to have that quarterback develop. And that might take a year or two anyway. And then by that time, you got you guys, contracts are going to be up on defense. And it's just a tough thing. But look, I'm excited for the NFL season. We're coming down to the end here. We'll get into it as we get closer as what we're going to think is going to happen in the playoffs. I'm excited. My Dolphins, we are playing the Chiefs on Sunday. And this mic is working. However, I will not predict us to win the game, but I would love us to win the game. Okay. So, Trey, finally, we got the NBA season about to start. Okay. And I wanted to bring this up to you because we did see this happening in the NFL. Now, of course, the NFL has taken many precautions throughout the time with COVID-19 just to try to figure out how they would take care of everything and how they would keep everyone safe. They did require, for all players to have masks in the NFL. Guys were getting fined, so they required everyone, even on the sidelines. We also saw the Broncos a few weeks back have no quarterback because of guys being on the COVID-19 list. Now, what is the threat of this happening in the NBA, where you can just have a bunch of guys on a roster all get out because of COVID, and you could maybe possibly have a team just of like 4 or 5 guys? Is that going to happen? Because the last time we did see the NBA, it was obviously in a controlled a controlled bubble setting.
I think the risk is a little bit higher in the NBA, and the issue is, it's just when the NFL. I mean, I guess in a way you could say, oh, you have 52 players. There's more players that possibly get sick and spread this virus. But in the NBA, if you have 2 players get sick, I mean that could be the difference between going to the playoffs and your season being over with. I mean, if LeBron James gets sick,
so it's over.
I mean, the Lakers are pretty much it's done. It's over with. If Jimmy Butler gets sick, Miami, they're in trouble. So I think the NBA is in a more precarious situation than what we saw in the NFL. But if they want to take anything from the NFL, it's just that you have to take it seriously. I know the Broncos, who brought up this situation, their quarterbacks, they were in a quarterback room reviewing film supposedly, and they weren't wearing their mask, and we saw how that ended. So I think if you want to take anything from it, you shouldn't be out at the club partying, giving out $100,000 bags without wearing a mask. You should take it seriously, and hopefully that won't happen.
And the unfortunate thing with the Broncos situation, like you said, they were actually at work doing their job, and then they just didn't follow the protocol, right? So you can get it in any way at this point.
Yeah.
Like, obviously you can get it going out to the club. You can get it hanging out with your friends, right? Doing the right thing.
You can get it out, handing out honey buns.
Yes, you can get it. You can get it that way too. I feel like you're really upset that little baby got these honey buns. I feel like it has nothing to do with the money. It's the fact is that like the honey buns was icing on the cake. I didn't even mean to do that on purpose. But so look, man, I'm very excited. We got a bunch of stuff coming up for everyone. Next week, please tune in. We got a special Christmas episode for you. Of course, we're going to have the big, huge NBA preview. We're going to tell you exactly what to look out for, what teams to look out for. You don't have to be watching League Pass every week. All you got to do is listen to us, and we'll tell you exactly what to do. All right, so thank you all for joining us. Please like and subscribe like you always do. We appreciate all the love and support. We appreciate all the questions, all the feedback, all the comments. Trey, man, it's a pleasure like usual.
Yes, it's a pleasure. Thank you.